now like to introduce our second speaker for the day. Ms. Vrunda Sekhar is a handloom specialist from Karnataka. She has been working with weavers in research, revival, and marketing of Ilkal sarees, a 7th century weave developed by the Chalukyas of Badami. She is on a mission to make Ilkal sarees a national weave and a must-have for every Indian woman. Dr. Vrunda, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. You are familiar with Ilkal sarees. I'm assuming that all of you are. If you are not, this is a small story for you to know, understand what your mothers, their mothers and their mothers have worn for centuries. I stand before you today in the Pride month, this month, to be privileged and extremely honored to be indoctrinated into Ilkal sarees by 1,000 transgender and queer folks. They are called Jogammas and Jogatis, and they are based in North Karnataka. And the goddess at Saudatti, Yellama goddess at Saudatti, is actually a deity for the entire LGBTQ community. Perhaps no other goddess has this kind of allegiance that they all owe to. I was there and I have been a part of the system in the last 7 years. I don't come from a textile background. The last 7 years have been with the weavers, sitting in the loom, sweating, enjoying their bhakri, enjoying varan bath, and a whole lot of things. And it has been extremely cathartic. And here I stand in front of you today, being a small part of the weaving ecosystem. We will talk about the Ilkal Chronicles because it's very difficult to talk about a weave that started during the 7th century, and I stand before you in 2023 to talk about it. But I'll give you a little small snippets of what could have happened, considering a little bit of amount or little bit of content that has been made available. Unlike a lot of weaves like Kanjivaram, like Patola, or even Paithani, not much has been written about Ilkal. And I often question my weavers why there is not much content or no history is available anywhere about Ilkal. And they say Ilkal is your second skin. Why do you need any content at all? So my research in the last 7 years are small snippets what you are about to see. Yeah? Ilkal is a sari from Deccan and worn largely by the women, I wouldn't call just women, by the people of North Karnataka and southern Maharashtra. The entire North Karnataka wears Ilkal saris. In southern Maharashtra, essentially, you have Sangli, Satara, parts of Raigad, parts of Sindhudur and Solapur extensively, up until Mumbai and Pune, wearing Ilkal saris. Ilkal has several names. In Karnataka, it is called Ilkal. In parts of Maharashtra, it is called Irkal, Irkali, Irkali, Ikkal, Ikkali, and many other names. We call it Ilkal because Ilkal has a GI tag of 76 and it is to be called Ilkal saris. Ilkal saris are available in cotton, silk and art silk. We loosely call art silk as chamka. Art silk actually is derived from, it's a plant fiber. It is not a man-made fiber like polyester, right? Chamka is made from the Nilgiri's tree bark. It is processed just like polyester and it looks like one, but it is also breathable just like cotton. Now we are also on the experimental mode. Ilkal saris now are being produced on eri, muga, tassar, and we are experimenting on plant fibers like banana fiber, pineapple fiber and hemp. I must tell you this, wearing a hemp sari gives you the kick that you can't consume. It is all weather friendly because the black cotton on which these yarns are sought from keeps you cool in summers cool in summers, yes, warm in winters. And I will explain as I go by why I'm saying this. It is the most affordable, popular workwear of the Deccan women. Uh, Guys, it is not expensive at all considering how expensive the saris are. Patola, I'm told the base price starts at about 34,000 rupees. On an average, yeah. But then Ilkal sari starts with 500 rupees. So it is very comfortable to wear and it is most affordable across the expanse of the Deccan. If we delve into the Ilkal sari history, Ilkal was actually supported first by the Chalukyas of Badami, Vengi and Kalyani. The Chalukyas actually began production, or the kings actually began production of the Ilkal saris, and all other parts of North Karnataka had roughly about 200 to 250 Ilkal centers to begin with. Unfortunately, we have only about 35 left. The Chalukyas ruled between 6th and 12th centuries, and the kingdom stretched in the peak between the rivers Krishna and river Narmada. You can actually have a look at the expanse of the Chalukya kingdom, and this also has a lot of relevance with Ilkal saris. This stretch between Narmada and Krishna is very rich in igneous rock plateau. Between these two perennial rivers, it also has infertile red soil, where again cotton is derived, but of course it's not healthy at all. In the first 300 years of the Chalukya rule in the parts of Deccan, art, architecture, literature, commerce, trading locally, nationally, overseas, agriculture and weaving took shape. Why I mention agriculture and weaving is because, as you know, we did not have large-scale industries back then. Agriculture was an important industry by itself, it still is, and weaving came right after. Even to this day, weaving is the second non-structural industry, as we call. So agriculture still continues to be number one and weaving continues to be number two. Back then also, it was the same pattern. It is said that the Kalyani Chalukya king Jagadeka Malla I commissioned Ilkal saris in 603. And since 603 AD to 2023, Ilkal sari continues to be worn across the expanse of the Deccan. Why were Ilkal saris made? Basically, Ilkal saris were produced to be an adornment for the goddess Banashankari. Goddess Banashankari was and has been a tutelary deity of first the kings and now across the expanse of the Deccan. A lot of people, I'm sure in Maharashtra and Karnataka, she is the Kula Devi or Kula Devata of a lot of people from North Karnataka and southern Maharashtra. She was actually the tutelary deity of the Chalukyas. And to adorn goddess Banashankari, the Ilkal saris were first made. Goddess Banashankari is also called Vanashankari, Shakambari, Banadava, Banava, Vanadurge, and many other names. It all has a relevance because she comes from an area called Tilakaranya forest in North Karnataka. Tilakaranya forest is exactly the cusp between the Western Ghats and the Deccan Plateau. So it is, as I said, it is extremely rich in black soil and red soil, of course, infertile red soil as well. The Devangas, or the traditional community that makes these Ilkal saris, still continue to make the saris in 2023. They started in 603, and that community of people who made the saris in 603 AD still continue to make the saris in 2023. As I said, Ilkal saris were primarily woven to accessorize goddess Banashankari. It still continues to be done. It's just not goddess Banashankari. There is also goddess Yellama at Saudatti. She also gets accessorized by Ilkal saris. This is the history of Ilkal. Ilkal actually means Ile and Kallu. The Ile or the slope or the escarpment, and Kallu is the pink granite. Actually, for all Ilkal saris until about 50 years ago, very fine powdered pink granite dust was used as one of the natural ingredients to make the sari. And of course, now the granite is no longer quarried in North Karnataka, but from a very long time. It is said that the Romans used to trade with Chalukyas and the Shatavahanas and the Rashtrakutas for pink granite as well. It is still considered the toughest stone in the world. So these natural ingredients were sourced from the Tilakaranya forest, and the saris were made. As I said, it was woven for the goddess Banashankari. Ilkal saris also found their way in trade and commerce. Because as you are all aware, trade and commerce from India with Arab countries and European countries has been long. I'm sure it is since the Mesopotamian civilization, as it is spoken about. And Ilkal saris, primarily because of their usage and ease of wear, was exported to both Arab countries as well as the European countries. It gave sustainable livelihood to people. As I said, after agriculture, textile industry was a huge one. So there were a lot, in fact, as I said, there are 250 or more Ilkal centers across the expanse of Deccan. So that also meant a huge livelihood to the systems of the people. Because of this, because of the sustainable livelihood, it had impacted the socio-cultural, political, historical and economic changes of the landscape. What do I mean by socio-cultural impact? Even to this day, Ilkal continues to be the largest woven weave across the expanse of the Deccan. That is, in a closed demography, Ilkal saris, the consumption is so high that it hasn't had the need to grow beyond its geographical border. The idea is that it should, just like Kanjivaram saris or Patola saris or Paithani, should actually get a national stature. But then the consumption has been such that beyond this closed demography, it has actually not been able to make any mark at all. And the idea has to change, and I hope it will change soon. As I said, it is the largest occupation after agriculture, so it was socially accepted, and it became a family occupation. In weaving, as you are aware, there are two kinds of weaving. One is weaving per se, and there's something else called ancillary weaving. Ancillary weaving is a system where you prep the weaver with yarns, fix them into proper slots, and get it ready for weaving. So since this was a family occupation, the ancillary weavers were the people in the household. A young girl of 3, an elderly gentleman of 80 were all ancillary weavers or weave makers. So this became a family occupation. And because of Ilkal being the most popular weave across the Deccan, it was the most sought after, the weavers were the most sought after resources across the Deccan. And Ilkal saris has been an inspiration to other weaves of Deccan like Pattadanchu, Gomi, Narayanpet saris, Gadwal, Venkatgiri, Mangalgiri, Kunbi, Puneri, Solapur sari, Jijamata sari, Paithani, Karvati Kinar, Molkal Moru, to name a few. And the last one is very interesting. The Ilkal weaving grooms were much in demand then. Yeah, if you were a weaver from Ilkal, you were a prized, if you were a groom from Ilkal, you were a prized catch. One of the reasons why they have been able to expand across this Deccan is because the grooms were, as I said, instead of, normally the girls are sought after, here the men were sought after, right? So what would happen essentially is they would be going to places, they would go to a lady's mica and start weaving there. So it was the other way around, hence they have been able to go to far, and in fact one of the reasons why Ilkal weavers were popular is because the kind of design patterns that were in Ilkal back then were many. Now we have only about 4 or 5 left, but then apparently in earlier days there were 100 patterns to work on, and only Ilkal weavers were actually or had the expertise to do so. But unfortunately we have only 5 patterns now, and the grooms are no longer in demand. As you know, from times immemorial, people, the kingdoms have always wanted to come down south. Starting from Chandragupta Maurya to Ashoka, we have read throughout history that everybody wanted a slice of south and everybody wanted a slice of Deccan. So the best way to come to south was through Deccan. Is the reason why politically having a larger share or larger pie in the Deccan meant very, very important to all the kingdoms that wanted to come down south. Is one of the reasons why you will find a lot of forts in the Deccan, unlike the entire country. Starting from Chandragupta Maurya's time until about Tipu Sultan's time, you will see that for fortifications you had a lot of troops coming into the south, and hence there needed to be these troops stationed at these places. Because of troops, you had families, you needed clothing. Ilkal saris were repurposed to dhotis and, salwar kind of clothes. I wouldn't know what the nomenclature would be, but they were repurposed to blouse and a whole lot of other fabrics, and hence the production of Ilkal was also very high during the time. All of us know about the mantle. Can anyone tell me what a mantle is with reference to textile? I will show you. In the Greek time, this folding mantle was what it was called. Mantle was a piece of clothing that was about 4 or 5 meters, and most of the people in Greece, or the royalty in Greece, held it like this, and they would walk like this, right? We've all seen this in Granite and all other things. So this is holding the mantle. Ilkal saris were made for mantle focus. It was just not the Chalukyas who supported Ilkal saris. Many kingdoms after Chalukyas also supported Ilkal saris. So it is said that over 560 centers at the peak of Ilkal making took shape in the Deccan. But then, as I say, we are only back at 35 right now. The Bahmani rulers also supported Ilkal saris. This is actually more interesting for you. In 1621, Ibrahim Adil Shahi II goes to the court of Akbar, and he falls ill, so he stays in the court of Akbar for about 3 months. And then he is completely, he looks at the Mughal architecture and he's completely, he says he's overwhelmed. He says, what kind of thing is this? Because if you see Mughal architecture vis-a-vis Bahmani architecture is like a mud house, right? So he thinks that we should bring a piece of Mughals back to to Bijapur. So what he does is, after 3 months, he comes back with the karigars, the artisans from Agra. He teams up with the local artisans, that is the Devangas, the Kurvina Shalis, the Padma Shalis, and many other artists, and houses them in a place called Guled Gudda. And that's how Khana is born. All of us wear Khana blouses, or you are aware about it. It was actually, and if you see the design of Khana, it is very much like a Mughal honeycomb-like structure, right? So this was primarily brought, there's also a story for that. This was primarily brought because he wanted to use it for his zanana, the women folk of his empire. He wanted to give something off Mughals, and I think the blouse piece was the best to show off. And the Khana or Khana in Kannada is a measuring unit. It is less than a meter. It's about 0.9 of a meter, and it was very easy to wear back then. You had just 2 dories, tie it, and you were sorted. Unlike the blouses complicated blouses that we wear today. So Khana, it's still called Kharn, Khun, or whatever in today's parlance. I'm not too sure what it is called. In Karnataka, it is called Khana. As I said, agriculture and weaving were the largest industries, have been the largest industries for centuries. The economic impact of this is primarily because of the crops grown in that area. All of us talk about brinjal, BT brinjal, there is cash crops, there is commercial crops we grow, they grow lentils, they grow legume, greens and whatnot. But then all of them had a relevance. Most of these natural ingredients that we talk about were actually sourced from the Deccan. Primarily the indigo plant was grown in Deccan, the hemp plant was grown in Deccan, all of which served as the raw material for Ilkal saris. Because of the cotton, indigo, internal consumption of these two, the industry thrived, the agriculture thrived, and textiles as well. All of us know about the trade that most of the kingdoms had with Arabian and European countries. Apart from clothing, fabrics, they also dealt with horses, salt, indigo, spices, cereals, fruits, metals, leather. In fact, the port town of Kalyana is actually was one of the main centers for economic trade. And so were Honnavara, Bhatkal, Mangalore, Goa, and many other places. You would see on the screen a design on your right, which is called Chikki Paraspeti. What is Chikki Paraspeti? It is the largest worn pattern design on Ilkal saris. If you see it very closely, it is actually the serrations on a brinjal. Brinjal was the largest grown vegetable crop in Deccan and still continues to be. And this was the inspiration for their primary design. This is called the Chikki Paraspeti. You can see the serrations on, on top and bottom and the middle as well. The Chandra that you see is still work in progress. It is called the Chandrakali design, and we have not been able to get the natural ingredients that we have been working for it because they aren't available in the Western Ghats anymore. So the work is on. And when it happens, I will be most happy to call all of you and show you. As I said, Ilkal weaving happened from Gujarat up until Karnataka, and this is a repeat of, hence the industry grew. Ilkal saris also gave a lot of importance to women empowerment. As I said, it was a family occupation where the women also participated as much as men did, because they would prepare the loom for weaving and the men would weave. So the entire family, the entire set of women did their household chores. They actually did ancillary weaving as well. So perhaps this is very important, because we also talk about women not being given importance during centuries together in India, but then in the Ilkal parlance, women had a lot of work to do, and apparently they were paid as well. This has a mention in a lot of folk songs that are sung even today, and how much they used to earn. They used to earn a pittance, that apart, but they still used to earn. We have currently about 35,000 handloom weavers and about 125,000 powerloom weavers. As Ritu ma'am said, it is absolutely okay to wear whatever you want, so long as the weaver is able to tell you whether what he has produced is on handloom or powerloom. Yeah? The reach of Ilkal now is restricted to Karnataka, Maharashtra and Telangana. We've been working with the Ilkal weavers to actually contemporize the Ilkal saris. It is not possible. We are still failing dismally because people do not accept change, one. Two, we are so used to seeing Ilkal saris the way they were. It is a heritage sari. And the first question would be, why would you even want to change? But then the modern woman today also needs that small change. We are working towards it. One such experiment or trial that we did was on a black color. If you see on your right hand side, it had a maximum impact when we actually started this work. And I am told that over 45,000 black saris were made. So that actually gives us hope as well. It is, as I said, very difficult to give a contemporary makeover to a heritage sari. What would you do? How would you do it? Because all of us are so used to knowing, seeing, draping Ilkal saris as it were. And but then that one small window of hope that we have is that nobody can question us when we want to try new colors on them. We have been doing it. So much so that when we want new colors to be seen on a sari, we are taking the shade cards of a paint company and go to the weavers and say, dude, you think we can make this? It is actually happening. The change is happening slowly, but it is happening nonetheless. There are health benefits to Ilkal saris. As I said, it keeps you warm during winters and cool during summers, because the black soil cotton that you get is extremely rich in moisture content and hence very comfortable to wear all through the day. So it is a comfortable wear, it is an affordable wear, and it is extremely good for your skin. You do not get abrasions on your skin if you wear a asli Ilkal sari. But that asli Ilkal sari is not being made anymore. We are reintroducing organic natural dyes now. Of course, the buy-in for that is extremely low, but then the trial is on. because procuring that kind of organic dye is extremely difficult, and it is time consuming, it is expensive, and a whole lot of other things. But as I repeatedly say, that Ilkal is an affordable wear. All these things make the sari very expensive and it becomes unaffordable. And we see all of you supporting its ecosystem as well, because the change begins with you, and I have been telling everybody that just wear one sari. You don't have to wear 10 saris. Start with one, and you will actually say nobody can be satisfied with just one. So that's how we see the change. The lady in the picture is Vijaya. She is about 84 and she has been wearing Ilkal saris since she was 8. And the youngest is Sharda, who wears Ilkal saris for her dance performances. So we see hope here. We see hope, we see future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vrunda, for such an amazing talk. Now we are open for questions, and just 3 questions.
Thank you for that excellent talk. Despite it being so affordable and also, keeping you cool and warm depending on the season, why isn't it taken off? Maybe other communities don't know about this, or what is the reason?
Now, as I told you, the consumption in a relatively close geographical area has been extremely high, that it hasn't had the need to go beyond that area. This area that I'm talking about is the Deccan. And Ilkal is woven. It is the largest woven weave inside the Deccan itself. Is the reason why it hasn't had the need to grow. Now we are changing that. We are hoping that it will become a pan-Indian weave soon.
Deccan and Bahami also had a very strong connection with Safavid Iran. Any influence from Persia on the?
Not Persian per se. As I said, Mughals, yes, certainly, but not Persian at all, no. Because there are no documents to prove that there is a Persian influence on this, no.
Any other questions?
Hi, you mentioned pink granite. I just wanted to know, what's the role of and what's the use of pink granite?
Earlier, if you have seen Ilkal saris, the older images where your mom or her mom wore, the color was red primarily. And this red came by only on that fine, pink dust of the pink granite. That pink was actually mixed with natural ingredients like indigo and roots that were available in the Deccan Plateau. And then every sari had that fine dust. And most of the saris were in red. There were 3 primary colors that Ilkal saris were traditionally made for a very long time. They are red, black and white. Most of the saris, even if you see now, in the photos of yesteryears, you will see that predominant red, white and black. And that red had to come by only through pink granite dust. Even to this day, pink granite is the toughest and it's very comfortable. Stone at the end of the day, right? But then it is still the most comfortable piece of clothing to wear. I have actually saris in pink granite dust and you don't want to, be off it. It's healthy as well. Sir, you can buy them online, sir. But then I wouldn't call it a word of caution, but then kindly be a little more discerning when you're buying it, because a lot of fake has set in. It's very difficult to actually distinguish even for a trained eye. People say that the saris are made on in the loom by the weavers, but then it turns out to be a fake machine-made sari. They know exactly what where the handloom scores. For instance, when the sari ends, when the body of the sari ends and the pallu begins, there is a small decoloration where it is actually gummed for the pallu. But then because of that coloration or the difference in the color, now the power loom makers have started adding those colors. So it's very difficult to distinguish unless it is a trained eye. It's very difficult. But then it is possible, sir. Online has several sites and platforms where you can go and buy genuine. Mine. Sir, you can actually try portals like iTokri, Dastakar, and others. They all have Ilkal handloom sarees. But in iTokri, Dastakar also there are fakes, sir. I must add. Now I found out recently, just last month, so I suggest that you check and buy. Maybe if you ask them, they'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vrunda. Thank you once again.
Subscribe to Sarmaya and be a part of the stories and conversations around art, history, and culture.